Happy Monday, listeners. For Scientific American Science Quickly, I'm Rachel Feltman. Let's kick off the week with our usual science news roundup. Let's start with some space news. Have you ever heard of rogue planets? They sound pretty cool, and they are. The term refers to exoplanets that roam free instead of orbiting a star. Some of them may be objects that formed like stars, coalescing in the wake of a giant gas cloud's collapse, but never gaining enough mass to actually start the process of nuclear fusion. Others may get their start in the usual planetary way, forming from the gas and dust around a star, before getting ejected out into open space for some reason or another. According to a preprint study made available last month, the life of a rogue planet might not always be as lonely as it sounds. Some of them may be able to form little planetary systems of their own, sans star. The researchers behind the new study, which still has to go through peer review, used instruments on the James Webb Space Telescope to gather information about 8 different rogue planets, each with a mass around 5 to 10 times greater than Jupiter's. Based on infrared observations, the scientists say, 6 of the objects seem to have warm dust around them, indicating the presence of the kinds of disks where planets form. The researchers also saw silicate grains in the dust, which is evidence that the dust is growing and crystallizing. That's typically a disk's signature move when it's gearing up to make some baby planets. Now, this study didn't actually find any hints of fully grown planets orbiting those giant rogue worlds, but it does suggest that such a phenomenon might be possible. And speaking personally, as wild as it is to imagine a lonely world roaming space without a star to orbit, it's even more intriguing to picture a whole system of planets just spinning together in the dark. Speaking of space, NASA's Europa Clipper, which is expected to arrive at the Jupiter system in 2030 so it can study the gas giant's icy moon, has completed an important test. Back in March 2025, the Europa Clipper flew past Mars and conducted a test of its REASON instrument. That's short for Radar for Europa Assessment and Sounding Ocean to Near Surface. This radar is a crucial component of the Clipper's mission because it's designed to peek beneath the icy shell of Europa's surface, perhaps even glimpsing the ocean beneath it. The radar will also help NASA scientists study the ice itself, along with the topography of Europa's surface. The Clipper features a huge pair of solar arrays that carry the slender antennas REASON needs to do its work. The antennas span a distance of about 58 feet, while the arrays collectively stretch the length of a basketball court, which is necessary for them to gather enough light. Europa gets just around 1/25th as much sunlight as we do on Earth. The sheer size of all those components made it impossible to fully test REASON on Earth, because once the flight hardware was finished, the Clipper had to be kept inside a clean room. NASA simply didn't have a sterile chamber big enough to properly assess the radar. When Europa flew by Mars on March 1st, REASON sent and received radio waves for about 40 minutes, collecting 60 gigabytes of data. Earlier this month, NASA announced that scientists had completed their analysis of the data and deemed the REASON instrument ready for prime time. Let's move on to some public health news. First, vaccines. Last Tuesday, The Guardian reported that COVID cases in the US are on the rise, as has been the case each summer since the start of the pandemic. Though this current surge has seen case numbers growing more slowly than in previous years, experts who spoke to The Guardian voiced concerns about what could lay ahead. Back in May, U.S. Food and Drug Administration officials wrote that come fall, COVID boosters may be limited to older people and individuals at higher risk of getting severely ill. Even if this move doesn't outright prevent people from vaccinating themselves and their kids, public health experts are concerned that confusion around availability and insurance coverage could lead to a worrisome dip in booster administration. Meanwhile, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services head Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced last Tuesday that his department is canceling almost $500 million in funding for the development of mRNA vaccines. While experts say mRNA vaccines are safe, have the potential to curb future pandemics, and have already saved millions of lives, Kennedy has come out against the technology. Mike Osterholm, a University of Minnesota expert on infectious diseases and pandemic preparedness, told the Associated Press that he didn't think he'd witnessed a more dangerous decision in public health in his 50 years in the field. We're hoping to focus on explaining mRNA technology in an upcoming episode, so let us know if you have any questions we can answer. You can send those to sciencequickly@sciam.com. In other public health news, a group of scientists say bird flu could be airborne on some dairy farms. In a preprint paper recently posted online, researchers report finding H5N1 influenza virus in both large and small aerosol particles in air sampled from California farms. The scientists also found viral particles in milk, on milking equipment, and in wastewater. While H5N1 isn't currently thought to pose a major health risk to humans, its continued circulation in mammals leaves us open to potentially dangerous mutations of the virus. We'll end this week's roundup with a fun little story about how terrifying humans are. Earlier this month, the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. Department of Agriculture workers are blasting human music and voices from speaker touting drones to scare wolves away from livestock. Apparently, the audio selections for these so-called wolf hazing attempts include the sounds of fireworks, AC/DC song Thunderstruck, and, perhaps most delightfully, that scene from the movie Marriage Story where Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver scream at each other.
I may be like my father, but I am not like my mother.
You are! And you're like my father. You're also like my mother. You're all the bad things about all of these people. But mostly your mother.
Apparently, Driver and ScarJo are just the thing wolf hazers needed. The Wall Street Journal reported that noise-making drones were deployed in southern Oregon after wolves killed 11 cows in the area over a span of 20 days. Once the drones were in hazing mode, there were reportedly just 2 fatal wolf attacks on cattle in an 85-day period. But there's no word yet on how the wolves feel about Laura Dern.
God is the Father, and God didn't show up. So you have to be perfect, and Charlie can be a up and it doesn't matter. You will always be held to a different, higher standard. And it's up, but that is the way it is.
That's all for this week's Science News Roundup. We'll be back on Wednesday to talk about the latest advances in male contraception. Science Quickly is produced by me, Rachel Feltman, along with Fonda Mwangi, Kelso Harper, and Jeff DelViscio. This episode was edited by Alex Sugiura. Shayna Posses and Aaron Shattuck fact-check our show. Our theme music was composed by Dominic Smith. Subscribe to Scientific American for more up-to-date and in-depth science news. For Scientific American, this is Rachel Feltman. Have a great week.